So I saw Rise of Skywalker on Saturday, and I wanted to wait and make my review on it because I needed to let it sit in. I watched some scene breakdowns and some stuff like that, some podcasts, people talking about it, because I needed to go through the movie again, and I haven't had time to go see it in the theater again. And I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm starting to really be able to make an opinion that I'm like, that I can say I'm like how I really confidently feel about the movie. And I still, even on that, like, how like that you're almost ready to make an opinion on something, but with this, it's like every time I think I'm ready to make an opinion on where I stand on this movie, my opinion changes. And it's been really a pain in the ass to make this video and to talk about this with anybody who's seen the movie, because I don't know exactly how to feel about it. There are parts in Rise of Skywalker, as a Star Wars fan, a diehard Star Wars fan, I loved. I love the visuals. This is one of the most prettiest looking Star Wars films ever, by far. It looks amazing. It's great. John Williams' score is fantastic. But those two things have kind of become standard in Star Wars in the past 40 years, and it's something that I shouldn't be having to point out every film, but I like to give credit to where credit is due, and John Williams deserves it, and the special effects artists deserve it. They did a great job with this project. But what the issue with this film is that I feel horrible for J.J. Abrams because of all the criticism he's going to get from this film. And yes, he may have made some decisions in The Force Awakens that, weren't the best, but I like The Force Awakens and I can defend The Force Awakens. He wasn't given much to work with. He basically gift-wrapped Rian Johnson an entire plan for a trilogy, and Rian Johnson threw it out the window. And because of that, J.J. Abrams had to make a sequel to what The Force Awakens should have, been. This trilogy, what he wanted it to be. He had to condense, 2 movies into a final movie that put a bow not only on the trilogy that he started, but a bow on the entirety of what the Skywalker saga has been so far up to this point. And I cannot imagine what type of task that was for him to do. I don't know how he slept that night, because this film is just, it's a lot. It's a lot to look at and to talk about, because it's not very good. And I hate to say that because I wanted to have hope that it would be good, but it's not good. And it's very incohesive. It's really grasping at straws to make you, the viewer, believe in what it's trying to tell you. It's not explaining anything to you, it's just telling you how it is. And 90% of the time, it does not make sense. And everything to do with the Empire. Okay, I guess this is obviously, it'll be in the title, spoilers, but I'll put a disclaimer here. We're going to get into heavy spoilers, so that is your warning. But the Emperor was complete bullshit in this film. Everything seemed to do with the Emperor. Now, I love Ian McDermott's performance, because he's great, and he always has been great as the Emperor, but what the fuck was he doing in this film? They did not explain anything on how he was alive. They didn't explain how he survived the Death Star. They didn't explain how he was able to transfer anything. Nothing. They just tell you he's alive. They tell you there's dark, sick. There's the dark side of the Sith leads to powers that are somewhat considered unnatural. He basically just quotes himself from the Revenge of the Sith and Rise of the Sith, and Episode 3. I'm drawing blanks. Because of how much this movie has made me upset. Like, I don't understand, I know why they made the movie turned out the way it did. It's just, there are so many little things how I view this movie. How I've been explaining it to everyone, my opinion on it so far, is that I don't hate the movie. I just extremely disagree with the choices they made in the movie. There's a really good movie in The Rise of Skywalker. It's there. But every time you think that the movie's going to do something that'll redeem it, that just sends it down a darker path. And it does this multiple times. And this is where the biggest issue of the film is, by far. The film sets up these dumb reveals, like, the point where Rey is pulling back the shuttle where Chewie has just been, they think Chewie's on it. Spoiler alert, he's not. But anyways, I was so angry at that point, because I thought Chewie was dead. Now, I was shocked, because I didn't know what to believe. I had read so many leaks that I didn't know what to believe and what not to believe. And I kind of believed it. I kind of got suckered into it there, even though I had a really good feeling that obviously Disney doesn't have the balls to kill off Chewbacca at this point with how the fans have treated the trilogy. But at the same time, I don't know what to expect from these movies, so I didn't know. And it got me, and that was bullshit. If you were going to kill Chewbacca in that moment and have Rey commit to being like an exile, that would have been interesting. What would have been interesting is that kill Chewbacca, have Rey go into exile, have her be there for a bit, have there be a passage of time, maybe not have this whole 16-hour time crunch that they're in, and just have it so that Rey actually goes there, is secluded, but then Luke's spirit comes, and she trains with Luke for a little bit, and we get kind of like that in-between period after the Battle of Hoth when Luke was with Yoda. We get something like that, where there's other events going on, but he is training, enhancing his skills more, so that when he goes to confront Vader, he's more trained. But why not do that with Rey? That she kills Chewbacca, she goes into exile, she's there for a little bit, then Luke Skywalker comes, trains her, not just gives her a spiel about how you basically caught correcting what the Last Jedi did, and then sends her on her way by lifting the X-Wing. Given that was an amazing shot and I got goosebumps, but that's not the point. I think that would have been better to me, because it at least enhances her character. Also, the other thing I do not like, that Leia is as powerful as Luke Skywalker. Like, the only indication we ever got to that was that training scene, and I also don't like that training scene because it brings up another issue in the movie for me, is that they wanted to be respectful to Carrie Fisher and her legacy by not recreating her in CGI. So they literally wrote the movie and her dialogue around what they'd cut out of Force Awakens. Yet they do all of this, and then what happens? They CGI her anyway and make her look young. And they make the both of them look way, way too young. They're like before A New Hope young. And this is supposed to be, they're fighting on the Endor after the last movie in the original trilogy. After episode 6. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There's so many incohesive things about this movie that I don't want to get into the whole thing, because if I do, this video will be 2 hours long and it'll just be me going over the plot without even dissecting in depth what the issues are. But this is mostly just a review, so I might do that later on. But anyway, getting back on topic without rambling, it's so hard not to ramble about when talking about this, is that there's just so many things that I didn't like about that. The characters in this, actually, I felt a lot stronger. Like, I actually enjoyed the new characters compared to what we've seen in the past films. I liked it. It was good acting, solid acting all around. It was great to see Billy D. Williams back. I didn't know what to expect with Lando, and I felt like he was wasted. He was mostly just a member berry, especially his intro scene. Like, he's literally in the movie for like 45 seconds for a bit. Like, that's how long his interaction is. He kills a stormtrooper, pulls him into a little shed, talks to him, gives a little nostalgia moment with Chewie that made me feel like a kid again watching him, and it was fun. But I digress from that, and that's it. He just gives Leia my love, all charmingly as Lando does, and they go on their way. And then we don't see Lando for a little bit, but so he's used as a member berry. That's what I honestly legit thought, that was gonna be the only time we saw Lando in the whole film. And I was so upset, because if that's how it made it felt. Like, it almost felt like I didn't know what to expect with this film at all when it came to characters and how they actually handled it, because I've read so many different leaks throughout like the last 5 months, it feels like, and all the reshoots they did. I didn't know what they'd cut and what they were going to do to try to throw people off the expectation of what was leaked, and I felt like at times there was way too much stuff that like apparently looked like it got cut. For example, there's this, I don't remember his name, but there's like a slug alien that is on the Millennium Falcon at the start with Poe and Finn, and it's weird because they have an interaction with him like he's supposed to be a character, yet we see him in the Falcon, we see him in the background, and then we see him hugging with Poe and Finn at the end like they're best friends. We've got I don't even know his name, yet that to me tells me something that, yeah, he's been cut out, and I don't understand it's just, this movie to me feels like it was almost 4 hours long and they cut that much stuff out of it. It just feels like there's so many like more things that they expand on in this film that was cut because of nostalgia and just trying to end it at this point. And I don't understand why not just add on the runtime. We weren't afraid to make Endgame over 3 hours long. Why not make this 3 hours long? I would rather have to sit there for 3 hours and at least get more detail in the plot and maybe correct some more stuff in a smarter way than have to deal with what they got. This movie is a prime example of poor execution, because there's literally like a good movie in here. Like, it's not hard if you could go in like the whole, it's just getting into just random theoretical crap, but it's like if you could literally go in and switch, like, it's almost like when you get presented with two different paths in like a Telltale video game, like The Walking Dead or anything like that. That's what it feels like, this movie. It feels like they presented you with two options on which way it was going to go, one being a really good option that everyone wants to pick, and the other one being a not so popular option that no one wants to pick. And every time they came to that crossroad, they went with the option that didn't make any sense and wasn't logical. Every time they got to that crossroad, that's how the path they went down. And if they had even done that, differed from that path a little bit in certain situations, especially in the end, I feel, this movie would be a lot higher on the ranking for me, and it actually might make my top 5. I shit you not, with the special effects and everything, and how dumb I think the Emperor is. I would have at least been able to support the ending enough because of how good Kylo's arc was, because Kylo is the best arc in the entire trilogy by far. With this film, it solidifies that, and they completely waste that, in my opinion, because they could have made it so much better, but they just threw it out. Their most developed character, they threw him out in the last 20 minutes. Didn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. Like, why not have, when Rey dies defeating the Emperor, why not have Rey die to redeem Kylo from the light? So instead of, Dark dying to redeem itself, you have the light person giving all their power, who technically Rey is dark, so she could have been the dark entity of the Sith. The Sith died to bring life back to the Jedi. It works both ways, and it would have been so much better with the title even to have the rise of Ben Skywalker, Ben Solo, to come up out of the dark side and lead the new area of Jedi, because he's a Skywalker. It makes sense. Not just a Palpatine claiming that she can be a Skywalker because she had to get approval from Luke and Leia. That whole scene with Tatooine, I literally felt nothing. No nostalgia, no nothing. I hated every part of the ending to this film, and it brought it down so much for me because of just the creative differences that I have with it as someone who appreciates Star Wars and film. I don't understand why, especially even with, like, it's not as bad as the way Game of Thrones Season 8, it changed your expectations every moment with something, but it honestly almost went like that's what they were going for. It's like JJ was like, okay, we have nothing, I've got nothing new to offer, there's nothing that I can do, so I will just basically subvert your expectations every time I can. And that's basically how it felt like to me. Everything I thought would make the perfect sense, which would make me like the film, it did the opposite of it. Now, this is just my opinion on the film, and I'm not a Star Wars person where it's like, I will hate you and call you not a Star Wars fan if you don't like the films, because there's a part of me that loves every Star Wars film. Even The Last Jedi, there are parts of it that I actually do like, and I feel that way with every Star Wars film. I still enjoyed this film. It just made me angry at some points because they had a really good idea, and they felt like last minute they just changed it and went with that because it was different, and that's what I didn't like about this. So if I had to give it a rating, like from on a 1 to 10 scale, if I had to give it a rating, I would probably give it a 7. Maybe actually, I'd probably give it a 6. It could have been a 8, honestly. Maybe even could have been a 7, an 8, or even a 9, borderline 9 for me, if they had just done things with it to change certain elements of how it played out. When you can't, like, I don't know. It's just how my opinion is of it. I felt like, I really thought with the way the script leaks were going, that this movie would suck. But they were, at the start of it, it kept getting up and getting up and getting up and building up, and I was like, holy shit, this could actually work. And it doesn't work. It doesn't go anywhere. It didn't work for me at all, this film. And I hope it worked for you, because if you're a Star Wars fan, you enjoyed it. That's great. I'm glad Star Wars went out for you on a high note. It did not go out on a high note for me and a lot of other people by the looks of it. But I want to thank you guys for watching this review. Thanks again for checking out. If you're new to checking out the channel, I'm new to making Star Wars content, so if you're interested in any type of Star Wars content, commentary, video games in the future, that type of stuff, please subscribe below. Always comment your feedback. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on the movie, so do not be afraid to leave a paragraph in the comments. I will read it and reply to you and have a discussion. I love talking about Star Wars, so no harm on that. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the movie. I really do. And if it didn't work for you like it didn't work for me, at least we have The Mandalorian. But if it ended to the trilogy on a high note for you, in your opinion, I'm really glad to hear that. I am happy that this film isn't as divisive as The Last Jedi, I feel like, because at least there is a good film here. The Last Jedi, in my opinion, is a god-awful. At least I could enjoy this film, and I did enjoy most of it. Or at least, I don't know most of it, but I enjoyed a good amount of it. And I'm just really disappointed with how some of the creative directions they went in. That's where I kind of lose it for me. So I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10. And I would probably rank it in between Solo and Actually, I'd probably put this in between Force Awakens and probably Phantom Menace. I'll show my graph up on the top, my Star Wars list. That's my Star Wars list, so you guys can see where it is. I'll add it into the video. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. So thanks so much for watching.